What would happen if a secret revelation that was meant to remain hidden somehow made its way to the surface, leaving a path of broken trust and shattered illusions in its wake? What if the calm someone you believed to be your acquaintance was actually battling a maelstrom that threatened to ruin everything they had constructed? Mendeecees Harris has long been a rock-solid pillar that appeared unfazed by the usual mayhem of public life. Prepare yourselves, because the curtain is going to be drawn back on a truth so explosive that it will completely change your perception of Mendeecees Harris. His image was one of quiet strength, a solid presence amid the glamour and bustle. Rumors that Mendeecees has finally spoken something that no one expected, words that hint at a secret encounter with a woman who has long ruined his life and marriage, are spreading, though they have not been confirmed. Before, murmurs were growing louder. In the behind-the-scenes footage that Mina said leaked, Erica Mendeecees confesses, "I did sleep with her, but that ain't my kid." While looking directly into a camera, think about how chaotic the internet is right now. Is it accurate, inaccurate, or does it conceal the seismic truth? Years of rumors, the consequences from those 9 purported remarks, which went viral on social media, might ruin everything Mendeecees and Yandhi have worked so hard to create. Prepare yourselves, because this story is only getting started, assuming even a fraction of these accusations are accurate. Was it a casual comment that took everyone by surprise? A private conversation that suddenly went too far? Or a confession that was deliberately pushed aside by someone who was worried about the consequences? The damage was already done, but no one could be certain. The obsession was only heightened by Yandhi's silence. Others who claim to have seen the video describe the scenario in its unedited, unadulterated form. An unnamed crew member claims that during a particularly stressful off-camera interaction with Yandhi, Mendeecees made a confession in a dimly lit production trailer with his hands clasped, his voice steady, and his eyes displaying a complex cocktail of shame, regret, and possibly a peculiar relief. Everyone had felt as though something was going to snap, and the air had been heavy with unsaid words for weeks. But that wasn't the whole story. Although she wasn't meant to film, Erica's sudden entrance on site was the true catalyst. Production. Sources claim that after insisting on speaking with producers, she gave them a sealed envelope. By the following morning, the whole atmosphere on set had altered. With something genuine in the works, following the allegations that Mendeecees had met Erica late at night offset. When Yandhi's call time arrived, she refused to go into hair and makeup and instead retreated to her trailer, where she spent hours glued to her phone. She had previously seen the fan pages and online speculations, according to those close to her. She remained silent, implying that the contents would permanently change everything, and there were purported DNA results. Sharing close-ups of what appeared to be official DNA documentation in an envelope screenshot. The connotation was obvious. Despite the obscured names, Mendeecees was being accused of being the father of a kid Yandhi was unaware of. Mendeecees, however, became a ghost who was unreachable and unresponsive. Desperate for answers in the face of a public eruption, producers arranged a private sit-down with no cameras or crew, just a microphone and a locked door. Someone who says they heard the uncut recording says what transpired in that room has now become legendary. It was chilling how serene Mendeecees was. Admitted that he had been in a heated argument with Erica months prior, without providing any justification beyond the simple acknowledgement that it had occurred. But then he uttered the notorious words, "I did sleep with her, but that ain't my kid." After witnessing the results, the producer was taken aback and asked him if he was sure. He reportedly said that he had suspicions from the beginning, believing that the DNA results were merely a twisted scheme and that Erica Mendeecees was angry and trying to hurt Yandhi. This is where the situation becomes much more ambiguous. Production supposedly locked away the videos within 48 hours of the audio, which was never meant to leave that room, beginning to leak online in short, enticing seconds that were sufficient to identify the speaker. Fans clipped the soundbite and added subtitles. And the internet was on fire. Divergent opinions existed. Some defended Mendeecees, while others charged him with deflecting. Insiders claimed that despite Yoondi's silence, she was crying during the wardrobe fittings and felt duped by the program as well as her spouse, Erica. However, maintained her composure by sharing cryptic quotes that only contributed to the controversy. The franchise's most explosive scandal revolved around her. When producers attempted to resume filming with a casual dinner gathering, the tension reached a breaking point, and what was meant to be a peaceful reunion swiftly descended into pandemonium. Wearing a spotless white dress and exuding an eerie serenity, Erica showed up without being invited. The room became quiet and Yandi stared up at her face, unable to read it. Unwilling to let up, Erica went right to the table, sat across from her and grinned. The quiet was broken by Yandi, who asked in a cool but piercing tone. Erica's wish the producers realized that Erica wanted more action. Even though she allegedly shrugged and claimed she had merely come to eat, Yandi's statement, "She doesn't need champagne. She needs to tell the truth," ignited yet another flame. "I already did. It's not my fault if some people can't handle it," Erica asserted coolly. "That's all it took," said Yandi Rose, not shouting, but with a quiet rage. "You could have told me before you told the world," she replied. When the shouting started, accusations flew, old scars were torn open, and Erica looked up, still calm. "I tried, but you weren't listening." The set became a battlefield, and everyone realized that Mendeecees was the reason why everything was falling apart. The fight continued after the cameras stopped rolling, and the air on set was thick with silence. Producers called an immediate wrap because they knew that nothing else could be filmed that night. And Yandi sobbed in her trailer, not from the fight, but from the crushing weight of betrayal. She had stood by Mendeecees through thick and thin when others would have run away, but this was different. This was about public humiliation. On the other hand, Erica appeared unaffected, as though a huge burden had been removed. When questioned whether she was all right, she replied, "I told the truth. Whatever comes with that, I'll take it." When word of the fight spread like wildfire, fan pages posted clips and people began to speculate. Some were taking sides while others were questioning Erica's timing. However, the most powerful piece was that short 15-second clip of Mendeecees in a dark room, whispering, "I did sleep with her, but that ain't my kid." The internet went crazy and producers refused to verify its legitimacy, but the harm was already done. The internet had determined that it was true, and inside the production chaos, Yoongi disappeared with a single message stating that she wouldn't be filming for some time. There was no explanation or time frame provided. Erica, however, was prepared for her next scene and eager to give a solo, unfiltered interview. She showed up in all black, with no outside distractions, and spoke calmly, explaining that she had tried to keep things quiet for months, giving Mendeecees every opportunity to be honest with his wife, but he kept putting it off, promising to handle it. "I waited and waited and waited," she said. Then she took a folded piece of paper out of her pocket and said, "This is the DNA result he asked for. He gave me a sample. He got the answer. He looked me in the face and told me he wasn't ready to tell Yandi, so I stopped waiting." Her voice cracked, not with tears, but with the weight of her burden. She said she didn't do it for TV because carrying such a secret, especially one involving a child, felt like betrayal, not only to Yandi but also to herself. The producers were left, stunned and unsure of whether to air it or bury it. Then something really unexpected happened. Yandi returned. With no cosmetics and no team, she unexpectedly entered the lot wearing a hoodie and leggings. A producer was called an hour later and she set everything up. "I'll talk, but it will be my way. I've given this man everything, and now I'm sitting here being asked to believe that he's telling me the truth after hiding something this big." she said, her tone raw in contrast to Erica's poise as she stared straight into the camera, exhausted but steady. She wasn't looking for pity. Instead, she was being honest about everything. She acknowledged having small concerns that didn't match up, but she never had evidence and never trusted him. Would transgress that boundary? I don't know if the child is his, she stated. I don't know what's real and what's a story being pushed. But what I do know is that I found out with the rest of the world, and that's not how a wife should find out anything. Just when everything seemed to be falling into place, the crew got a message saying that Mendeecees wanted to talk on camera by herself. She didn't know what to do next, whether she could forgive him or whether their marriage would last, but she vowed to stop being silent, not for the cameras, not for appearances, and not for anyone else's comfort. No one was ready for what he was going to say, and producers were unsure whether to give him the platform at all. However, with the entire world watching, they had no choice but to let him in. He arrived walking more slowly and heavily than he had desired. I'll sit you roll, he said. No hair, no makeup, no special lighting. The room became cooler and more solemn. Drama was no longer the focus. When the red light blinked, he started. I know I've said things that don't line up. I know I've been quiet when I should have spoken, and I know people think that means I'm guilty. Maybe I am. Maybe I'm not guilty. He admitted that he didn't believe Erica when she told me she was pregnant, not because I thought she was lying, but because I didn't want it to be true. That's the difference. What they're saying is that he wasn't a man about it, not owning things before they blew up in everyone's face. And his eyes were sunken not from fatigue, but from sleepless nights when he wasn't performing. Denial isn't always about the other person. Sometimes it's just about fear, and I was afraid when he admitted that I mishandled things and went too far. When she told me about the baby, all I could think was, what have I done? Then the part that no one saw coming came. I asked her for a test. I didn't want to accuse her of anything, but I needed to know, so she agreed without question or argument. 2 weeks later, I read the paperwork and I was still in shock. He paused in a pregnant silence, so I took another test in secret so that no one would know, not even Yandi or the crew, but he did so casually, which only made it more chilling. I'm not saying this to protect anyone, not even myself, Erica, or Yandi. He looked smaller, as if the weight of the truth was physically shrinking him. I should have told Yandi the day I found out, before I even agreed to the first test. But I kept thinking, what if it's not true? What if I'm ruining my marriage for something that turns out to be a lie? By the time I got the answer, it was too late. I had already lied, and each day that followed only made me a bigger coward. Backstage, the crew was frozen for a long time, and he took a deep breath. I wasn't a man, not in that moment, not for a long time. It was rare to see someone in his position crack open so profoundly. This wasn't a calculated apology. It was a raw, naked admission. And Yandi, if you're watching this, he said slowly, I told myself I was protecting my family, but in reality, I was just protecting myself from losing the image of who I thought I was. I put you in that situation because I asked you to wait and to hold on to something that was never yours. Though we have a child together, I left you out there as if you meant nothing, and I regret that he was silent for a long time. I don't want forgiveness if it comes from pain, and I just want you to know that I loved you through it all. Even when I was being dishonest. That may sound crazy, but love doesn't always come clean sometimes. It didn't matter how emotional his confession was. For some, it was too late. For others, it was the moment of revelation they had been waiting for. This wasn't scripted drama. It was real emotion, real damage, real people navigating the wreckage of one man's silence. And when word leaked about the second DNA test, social media collapsed, forcing those who had doubted Erica to reconsider everything. In the end, he stood up and left the set. Erica brought receipts that made everything different. But the real question is, do you think Mendeecees came clean because he was finally caught, or out of guilt? Was Yandi right to walk away with her head held high, Or should she have fought harder for her family? Was Erica brave or just brutal in her pursuit of the truth? If you want more of this unfiltered drama where secrets crack wide open and the truth hits like a slap, make sure to hit the subscribe button. It's only the beginning. The next episode might destroy the entire house. Press the button and enable your notifications so you don't miss the next explosion. The true narrative is far from over.